my journey is really about being so curious about discomfort, because the moment I feel restless or I'm angry or I'm worried, I take my attention inward and really inquire into what really is happening here. What is not okay which is causing this botheration? And 9 out of 10 times I realize at that point that it is a futile effort to do something. So the triviality starts to show up when you really slow down and inquire.
Welcome. You're watching YanaTV, where we have our authentic conversation with impactful and conscious people of Asia. My name is Yana Fry, and today with us in the studio we have Anupama Murali, and we're gonna talk about really interesting topic. How do you live your life fully excited about life, fully fulfilled, fully happy, when you feel that in all areas which are important to you, you are actually realizing your highest potential? Let's go. You know, usually when people come and sit in this exact chair, they say something like, well, life was fine, and then something happened, X, Y, Z. And then I had a really bad experience, and this is what made me realize that there is more to life, and I went on a search for happiness. And what I love about your story, it's not like that.
It's not that something happened and then I realized, but something was not happening.
And then you realized.
And then I realized.
So what was not happening?
Life cannot be about being on a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes feeling good, most times not feeling good, and sometimes feeling okay. So I had this experience for several years where, I would show up at work, and at work I'm showing up and I'm doing whatever is necessary. I am interacting with my colleagues. I go back home and I'm taking care of things. But internally I'm like, not okay.
To be just a bit more specific, we talk about fears, anxiety, panic attacks, anything else, or just feeling of dullness?
Yeah, dullness.
Okay.
And also irritation. Slightest things will just set me off. And I would always say, okay, this is to do with my situation, it's with people, really
not me,
on
clearly.
that. Yeah, just being on that, like fly off the handle so easily. And not really experiencing freshness in the morning, for example. And the weekend not even being excited anymore. When I actually talked to my colleagues who worked with me, they were like, really? You were experiencing this? Because we never noticed that. Because, you're going up in meetings, you are showing up, you're doing whatever you can, and then you step out of that spotlight, and then you're back into your world and you're thinking, okay, why am I feeling so terrible?
And I just want to be also clear, it's not like things were terrible in your personal world, because family is fine, you are fine, job is fine.
Yeah.
So when they look at you from the outside, they probably would think you have absolutely nothing to worry about or be unhappy about.
Correct. Yeah.
Yet there was that feeling of something is not there.
Festering, right? There was nothing so bad that caused me to feel this way. And I really think it was not to do with that situation at all. It was actually a build-up over time, where I hadn't addressed some of the feelings I had or whatever was coming up for me in my life for a very, very long time, right? For example, losing your cool very often, or not being fresh enough in the morning, like feeling dull, like lack of
low
energy.
lack of
right?
energy. Yeah.
That can't be put aside. It needs to be addressed. And if it is happening on a continuous basis, okay, there are moments in your life when you've gone through a health patch and you're not feeling fresh enough, that's okay. But if you're not actually regularly feeling it, you don't feel like wanting to go to work, or when you come back home, you're so exhausted that you can't perform, you cannot do anything anymore. That's not normal. I mean, you cannot go through life like that, because then it's just about showing up and not really actually showing up for yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. The conversation we're having here, I feel it's like so important, because it takes actually more courage for a person to say that things are fine, there is nothing like horrible happened, and yet I'm not 100% happy and I want to do something about it. Because what's easy actually to say, well, things are kind of fine, I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to risk anything, I'm not going to try anything, because nothing bad has happened, right? And people just go into this state of dullness, sometimes for decades. And that's kind of when sometimes we look at someone and we don't see light in their eyes anymore. The person is alive, but they're dead. And this is like a really sad feeling.
Yeah. So my curiosity really built because, like I said, I was on a roller coaster. I did have those high moments. I did have those high moments when I felt very energetic and I would go into a room, especially when I were interacting with people, it would really sort of bring enthusiasm to me and I would come alive. And then I don't have those moments. So I got very curious about there must be a way to feel high most of the time.
Yeah.
It cannot be true that this is going to be my life. And for me, I think, although I never admit it, it so happened that my husband was also on his own journey, right, of going through his own challenges. And this is very interesting. Like in a relationship, you're living together, but you're not really having these deep conversations of what is happening within you. You're just going
How
through life.
many years have you been married? Just
next year it'll be 25.
Wow. Okay. I mean, the reason I ask because I find it is important. It's not 5; it is 25, right? So, and often, I think when we're in a long marriage, it could happen very often, and people kind of just move on with their lives if they're not careful. So it is so important to constantly check in with your partner. You know, what's happening with you, right? I mean, are we still aligned? So I'm glad that you're talking about it.
Yeah. For a very long time, such conversations have not been had, right? And we're just going through life like, a drill. We wake up, we go to work, we come back, we meet people, we socialize, all that is happening. But we're not really having deep conversations. Are you okay?
Yeah.
How are you experiencing your work? Are you enthusiastic? We're not having those deep conversations. I think he went on his journey and I was on mine. But he decided to take charge of it and sort of learn meditation and breathwork. And in my case, I was made to enroll for it. It was not by choice. But that opened me up because through meditation and breathwork, I had moments of having less clutter in me. And those moments really became my opportunity to say, hey, how do I fix this? Because before that, there was no opportunity because there's a lot of clutter, right? So I would say my journey started with breathing better.
Which is so important. And actually, if we do look at least ancient practices, it is all about breath and body. Those are the two essentials.
Because it's connected to our nervous system and it does what it needs to in a very simple manner.
And so we know parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, right? We also know the difference between the two when one goes in a fight or flight kind of syndrome and person gets tense. And actually, just to make sure we all understand what we're talking here about, right? And breathing actually relaxes. I think it's called vagus nerve, right?
Yes,
which is
the
relaxes.
Vagus nerve. I mean, just by breathing consciously, we can activate the vagus nerve. So back to your question, I think the practice allowed me to have those moments of sudden clarity. And that clarity led me to sort of feel better and even act better, right? I mean, I would say I fell in love with the person that I started to become when I practiced breathing and meditation. I wanted to have more of her in my life.
I love that. How did it go after you discovered that?
So it's like phases, right, Yana? So it first is like, for example, I always say this, right? If there is a room full of people, then you're not going to be able to notice someone you know. But if the room is empty, you can easily notice. Like this room, for example, is not full, and I can easily find out where people are. That's only the first step. So it allowed me to sort of clear the clutter a bit. But once I got, I took the juice from that and say, okay, I'm feeling good today. Let me go to work with enthusiasm. Let me have good conversations. Then I had to kind of figure out more. Because I had to get to the root of what was causing that disharmony in the first place. It was not a superficial thing. It started with some superficial thing because it's like, okay, great. I don't feel as stressed as I used to be. But then the phase 2 was, okay, what was making you stressed in the first place? You have to address that.
Did you figure it out?
I would say I'm still on that journey, but a lot of figuring out has happened. And that's why I would say I'm really, really passionate about being in equilibrium and, how can I come back to my center? How can I live with more intention? So that I'm not in tension, it's the same thing which can twist around. And I believe that if you're not intentional, then you're in tension. That means with people, with situations, you're not able to really act the way you would like to because all of us carry a lot of baggage. So it's really about kind of slowing down and saying, hey, what is causing me to have this disharmony? So my journey has been from going from disharmony to more inner harmony. And I'm still working on that. And it's very exciting, right? Because it's not about a title, it's not about a position, it's about that inner feeling.
Yes. Do you do any practices yourself on daily or regular basis that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So I practice a rhythmic breathing technique, which is what I discovered many years ago. Now it's been 15 years since I've been practicing it. I also sort of very particularly sort of make time to meditate, to move, and so on. And I also go on retreats. So I really make this part as very essential in my life.
It's
It is
corrective.
not a corrective action for me. It's really preventive.
It's amazing what you said. It's not preventive. It is actually, it's a part of your life. And I find also, particularly since the COVID, since 2020, I'm so happy to see how much the awareness overall in the society has risen, that people understand the importance of wellness and well-being and mental health and practices and meditation, and the effect of stress on us as humans. So whatever we do, individually and collectively to manage it, I think it's actually so important to share. So thank you for doing that here today. And my next question would be, so you talked a little bit about family. You kind of briefly mentioned, okay, your husband, he was going on his own journey. I assume he got you into the practices. You learned it, you integrated it into your life. So how did that impact your work?
Significantly. First and foremost, I think I began to realize that I want to do something else. I've always been into technology consulting, and I did this for over 15 years. And I think the whole meditation journey opened me up to sort of become more clear on what is it that I want to spend the rest of my time on. And I think during those technology consulting years, what I really liked was the interaction with people. I loved sort of being in environments where we used to talk about how we could upskill people and have conversations. So I think I took that off into my next phase, which is all about coaching and leadership development and so on. So I would say that while the technology consulting gave me a very bigger, broader brush of experience, what I kind of have taken away from there is the people part of it, which I really didn't know when I was a technology consultant. But back to that roller coaster ride, I did reflect on those moments. When do I really feel uplifted? And then that was basically the secret, right? Where I am interacting with people, I'm having deeper conversations, stimulating conversations, creating impact. So then that's what I decided to do as my phase 2, I would say. My journey has been going from one world of IT to another world of IT. The first one being information technology, which is the technology consulting. And now it's inner transformation. So breathwork, meditation is a very large part of my life. I'm also a facilitator. Over a decade, I've been teaching programs. And that's one of the ways in which I make sure that I am connected with the practice,
So what it is that we can do, and our audience can do that can help us to regulate our nervous system when we're stressed, maybe like an easy practice we can do.
So the inner transformation that I mentioned is basically 3 elements, right? One is just the somatic work, which is your breathwork and meditation. And then the other part is the cognitive part of it, right? Because while you can regulate and bring back your emotions to be a more stable, that's the time you can really kind of rationalize and understand what is it that caused you to go into that place in the first place. So it's a cognitive and a somatic mix that comes together. So your palms go open to the sky, because whenever we breathe, we want the palms to be open. These are energy channels. And there's a number of times I have to remind people to keep their palms open, because there's a tendency that we put it down. So there's a huge difference if you were to breathe with open palms and closed palms. Your breath becomes easier. And what we want to do, Yana, is to just, I invite you to close your eyes and simply kind of start breathing deeply. And when you say deeply, we are saying that, embody your breath. As you breathe in, let your abdomen expand on its own. And contract on its own, right? But we are making it long and smooth very consciously. So take a breath in. And breathe out. Now, I would like to also invite you to activate your chest and your shoulders, right? So when we're going to do a full breath, so breathing in, your abdomen expands. And when you cannot expand anymore, expand your chest consciously to breathe in a little bit more. And as you breathe out, slowly and gradually, with no hurry, we're going to let go. And if we can add in a little bit of holding of the breath, that's even better. So we're going to just breathe in, hold, and then breathe out. So let's breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4, and out breath over 6 counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold your breath again. 2. We'll do this 2 more times. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2, and one more time. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2. And whenever you're ready, you may slowly open your eyes.
I feel fresh.
It's amazing,
Yes,
isn't it?
it's amazing.
We don't really utilize the power of the breath.
Yeah.
So my journey started, first of all, to recognize the power. I had no clue. And when I let the breath become part of my life, I found many moments where I was calmer, clearer, and more compassionate. And I decided to sort of use those moments to delve into what was causing the disharmony, right? So I would say like expectations, opinions, and all these things just come together and you're not able to really sort of make sense of them. You start thinking this is the way people need to behave a certain way, but they won't. What are you going to do about that? So my journey is really about being so curious about discomfort, because the moment I feel restless or I'm angry or I'm worried, I take my attention inward. And that moment is to use my breath, first of all, bring my space in inwards, and really inquire into what really is happening here. What is not okay, which is causing this botheration? And 9 out of 10 times I found that I realized at that point that, it is a futile effort to do something. So the triviality starts to show up when you really slow down and inquire. But I wasn't able to do that for a very long time. So my journey has been about slowing down and then looking inward, I would say.
I love that. I love the breathing so much.
Basically, we take the breath in and out, we don't hold. So holding of the breath has a very significant impact on the mind, actually. Yeah.
And I love how you count also very differently. So that was very good. So my final question for today would be your biggest learning from the whole journey of inner transformation for yourself.
Discomfort is your best friend. It's there to tell you something about yourself. Don't run away from it. You just have to slow down. And the moment you slow down and use your breath, which is your other best friend, which is always with you, you can figure it out.
Thank you. And that was Anu on YanaTV. And you could see we really dive deep into inner transformation with breathing techniques that you can do every day that will help you to find inner peace, stay more grounded, more clarity in your mind, better decisions, better choices in life. So thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing, sharing, commenting. I'm going to see you next time. Permission to use it with all our YanaTV guests before we start, because
yes,
I find it really settles and balances, and the whole team also. Now we're going to do breathing regularly here.